Welcome to What Are You Sporting About podcast, a podcast about business, employment, sports, and entertainment to help educate, support, and guide you to your next level. Here's your host, attorney Sivonnia DeBarros.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sivonnia DeBarros, protector of athletes, and also the founding and principal attorney of the S.L. DeBarros Law Firm, where we represent athletes, business owners, and high-achieving employees. I'm excited today because I have Mr. Brett Lorin on the cast with me, and we're going to talk with him about his journey through sports and also transitioning to business and what he's up to now. So I want to give you just a little bit of background on him, and then I'm going to allow him to come in and speak and give the 411 more detail on his background. So we do have a Southern Californian in the building. He is here. He is a former professional athlete in baseball. He originally went and attended the University of Arizona, and that took him into, I think 2008 was the MLB draft, where he was recruited in the fifth round. He hit every level in the minor leagues over 7 years. That's pretty cool, right? And he also is a former owner, a franchisee of Jimmy John's. So how many athletes out there are looking into going into or investing into franchise businesses? Well, we're going to talk with him today about what that experience was like, what he's sporting about, what he's up to now, and what he hopes to do in the future. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Sivonnia. Glad we connected, and I'm happy to explain and tell my story and be on with you.
Yeah, I want to ask you, because I didn't say this either. You have a podcast called Too Tall Sports Podcast.
Yes.
So I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about what your podcast focuses on and how tall are you?
6'7".
How did a 6'7" person end up playing baseball?
I get that question a lot. I just kind of, and I know we'll get to this, but the short answer is after my senior year, I played both sports all the way through high school, baseball and basketball. And I kind of made a business decision when I was 18 and just said, which one do I have a real shot at making it in the professional world? And I chose baseball. Being a tall pitcher is an advantage. So, being a 6'7", slow, can't jump that high guy, I'm not sure if I was going to make it to the NBA. It's very tough. So I was just like, you know what, I'm going to take my chances with baseball. It was probably the right move. I could have gone to college for basketball and played 4 years at like a Division II school, and that would have been it. But I saw more for myself as an athlete. So that's why I chose baseball.
That's awesome. So what brought you into the space of podcasting and to launching the Too Tall Sports Podcast?
Honestly, it was like everybody else during the pandemic, not much going on. So I had some more time. So I figured, you know what, I've always kind of wanted to do it. And I started it with a buddy of mine first, and then he wasn't interested long-term. So I kind of took it over myself. And I had this whole network of people from baseball and everybody in the sports world. And I just started it. And part of it was to shed some light on the minor leagues, because it's so mysterious and how underpaid guys are and how tough the bus trips are and the accommodations aren't great. And so I just started with interviewing guys about what it's really like to go through the minor leagues and try to make it to the big leagues, which is one of the toughest things to do in sports. So it started with that. And then I just started networking people like yourself and all kinds of professionals. And now it's become bigger than just minor league baseball. It's, I'm also getting the reps in to try to get into sports media as well. So it's become a routine for me, which, in the beginning, as a lot of us, it's scary to get on camera. It's hard to put yourself out there, but once it becomes a routine, it's a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, you're right. You are absolutely right. Well, I want to dig in your mind just a little bit to pose a question that is the title of the show to you, but I'm going to do it a different way. First, I just want to know, what are you sporting about today? What is it that gets Brett out of bed? And how does that differ with what you thought you were sporting about in the past?
You can't play sports forever. So I think that once you realize that is not it's part of life, that you have to move on. I think I've kind of reconnected to baseball and sports again, where when I retired from baseball, it was 2014. I didn't want to watch baseball anymore. I didn't want to see guys that I played with or against that may have gotten up to the big leagues and it wasn't me. I wanted to get away. And now that I've kind of come back into it, I realize that I enjoy not only giving my opinion and talking sports, but also learning how to interview people and prepare for the show and being able to bring good content, because I feel like I have a unique perspective on sports, not only because I played, I just see the game differently, I think, than a lot of people on here. I'm nothing special, but I just feel like I have a voice that should be heard in sports. So that's what gets me out of bed, is delivering good content, good opinions. When I look back at like when Facebook first started coming out, I used to make little posts about sports and we'd have debates with my friends and stuff. I've always wanted to do this, not to just be like a contrarian, but I like talking about sports. And so that's now my new passion of where I'm trying to take my life, in the next few years.
I like that, but I want to back up and kind of dig into something
Sure.
you said, because you said that you just didn't want to watch the sport or talk about it at a particular juncture in your life. And I can remember when I graduated high school, I was like, I'm not going back over there. It's just something about being in close proximity to the school. I was just tired. So what was it mentally that was taking place in you, or even spiritually, that was, taking up room where you just did not have the desire to do or even talk about something that you loved? Because that seemed odd to me.
Yeah, a part of it was because when pretty much in sports, you have no control over your career path. It's pretty much what the organization sees for you. So if you don't have people in your corner pushing you through the system, good numbers or not, even if you're putting up good stats, it doesn't guarantee you that you'll move up in your sport, and especially with baseball. So for me, I got traded a couple times. Once you leave the original organization that drafted you, for me out of college, sometimes it's high school, you're no longer somebody's guy, so to speak. So you really have to either outperform so they can't even deny you and they have to move you up, or you move on to another organization. So I felt like, of course, everybody can do a little more than they did. And with the accommodations of the minor leagues, it's hard to be, peak performer all the time. But I thought that I put up the numbers that I could have made it to the big leagues. I was a 2-time minor league all-star. I wasn't just some scrub that floated around. I actually had legit stuff, and it bothered me that I could not. It's not based on merit. There's a lot of politics behind the scenes, and it bothered me that I couldn't. I was so close to making it that I needed people in my corner to push me up there. So, and there were other things too. There were injuries that happened. I had a hip surgery during my career. Just there's a lot of factors. And also just from watching a lot of baseball, we're playing in the minors, it's 142 games. In the big leagues, it's 162. It's a lot of baseball. And also, I wasn't going to be I know there's a lot of information. Sorry. I know I wasn't going to be a baseball lifer. I'm actually basketball is my favorite sport. And so baseball was it became a job for me once I got into the business of baseball. And I just got tired of it. I didn't want to be around it anymore. And it was just years of playing and I was just sick of it. So I needed to just step away and not be around it.
This might be a shot in the dark, but just based on what you said, what was the impact on your confidence? Or did it have an impact on your confidence, especially once you left the sport?
I think it's more of what do I do now? Because there's like an identity loss there naturally from this is what you do every day. Once for a college guy like me, it's baseball all the time. And back in the old days, you could just show up to spring training out of shape and that's when you get in shape. Nowadays, as you probably know, any sport, it's a year-round thing that you're training for. And also, you're not getting paid in the off seasons either. You're only getting paid in season. So there's a mental struggle there of I can't start a career because I have to leave in 6 months anyway. I can't move forward in life. And so when it all stops, now I tell people this all the time. I spent 7, if you include my college years, 7 to 10 years of not creating a real life resume in the working world where I'm ready for a software sales or a tech job. I'm not doing that. I'm going for baseball. It was plan A. So once you get out and for me in my late 20s, you're kind of starting over. So unless you have a plan in place, it's hard to adjust to regular life. So back to your question about my mentality, I just had to figure out what I wanted to do next. And that's the hardest part for a lot of athletes.
Yeah, you're right. The transitioning piece of it, that is difficult because, well, and okay, let me just back up because I am not a professional athlete. I am a former athlete, collegiate level, the highest I've gone. But from serving the interests of athletes, from being in this space, from listening to stories, from constantly reading some of the unfortunate stories of professional athletes, there is an issue and a disconnect between the what is the word? Transition between the transitioning from the sport to business, and which is one of the things that brought me to writing the book that inspired this podcast. What are you sporting about? Because sometimes I feel that the passion around the sport get lost. Like you were saying, it became so much of a job that you lost the fun aspect of it, right?
Yes.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but then I'm thinking, well, did you lose the fun? Did the fun get depleted from the sport because you weren't really clear on what you were sporting about when you chose to go pro?
I mean, the goal was to get to the major leagues, right? The goal is to get to the big leagues. But you, like I was kind of talking about earlier, you realize that just because you play well doesn't mean you're going to move up in the system. Right. So that's the hardest part, is accepting that all you can control is what you do on the field. And that's really hard mentally to do because, you know, the season starts, if you think about it, in March for spring training-ish. And then if you haven't moved up or you're still in the same place in August, it's a mental grind to still, like, why am I still here? Why are all these other guys moving up? It's so hard to not focus on all the outside stuff that's the mental grind there, is just you can't move yourself up. So that's the hard part. So
then the difficulty of transitioning is the fact that you haven't come into the realization that this is not going to happen for me. The one thing that I thought was going to happen is just not going to happen for me because I'm not ready to let this go, which creates that additional hurdle of, okay, I need to start reorienting my mind around what should be happening next,
right?
Versus being stuck in, I still want this to happen, although it's not going to happen.
Right. Now, I wasn't one of those guys that was like wanted to hold on to baseball for dear life. I was ready to move on mentally because I felt like I did pretty much all I could do at that point. Yeah. So I was okay with it. I wasn't going to be one of those like 35, 40-year-old dudes playing independent baseball, getting paid nothing to play, just to play, because I can't give up the game. I didn't need the game anymore. What I needed was a direction in life. And so that I kind of made a quick transition into franchising. And I don't know. I always felt like I wanted to own my own business. And that was a natural next step for me. I just didn't know what. And then that whole idea of franchising came up. So if you want to, we can get into that.
Yes. I want to table it for just a second, though, because there was a study that I came across probably like a year ago now, but it was studying resilience. And it was around children. So what the scientists found was that children or people who had been in sports from a earlier age had higher levels of resilience than those who had never been exposed to sports. I think I can probably attest to that because my mom put us in sports, even, from a very young age, and I never liked getting dirty. So for me, that was a problem. But I do know that there are some lessons that I've been able to kind of pull out from the past to help me to keep moving forward in my life. So I just want to know from you if there are lessons that because hindsight is 2020.
Sure.
Although things may not have gone the way that you wanted them to go, people may not have stood up for you the way that you felt like they should have or fought for you. Did it teach you a form of resilience? And if it did, what was it? And how are you applying that now, today, into anything that it is that you are doing or want to do?
That's a great question. I would say of all the sports, I would argue baseball is a sport built on failure. So you have to learn how to lose because this game is really tough. And I wasn't even a hitter. I was a pitcher. And hitting, as they say, if you hit 300, you're an all-star, right? So that's 30% of the time you're getting a hit. So baseball is a sport built on failure. And so you hit adversity a lot. And then if you go through injuries, I had some injuries in my career. So you learn how to go through the rehab and the mental hurdle of trusting your body again. And there's a lot of things you learn from sports, being on a team, learning how to win, learning how to lose, trying to stay mentally even keel. There's a ton of lessons in sports that you learn that would help you in life. So I think that, to your point, people that didn't play sports or don't know how to go through adversity or don't know how to fail, they can't handle things as well as athletes can, because it's just like, nope, we're on to the next play. We're on to the next play, whatever it is, you kind of learn to, especially in the minors, you learn that you're not going to over celebrate things. You're not going to get too down. I try to keep an even keel mindset and be consistent. And sports are all about structure. So every day you're showing up to the field, or for basketball, the court, whatever it is, there's a structure in place. And that's also, by the way, going back to the other thing, you lose the structure when you stop playing sports. So some guys can't handle that either. What do I do with my day? That's for the other stuff. But you have to learn, you got to be resilient and apply it to your life. And if you've gone through failure before, most situations you can probably handle after sports.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes it's just taking a moment to step back from what didn't happen that you thought should have, and look at all the good things that experience did grant you, right? Because then you're able to, like you said, they don't have a structure. Okay, what did you do when you were playing? Implement that structure in what you're doing now, so that you can at least start from somewhere familiar, so you're not so overwhelmed and just feel like, okay, nothing is going to go right for me, or if it's not going to happen, because that is the one place that can totally take you downhill so fast, because it can be so overwhelming that you never would feel that you can climb up out of that, that failure type of mentality.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, though, about this business that you had with the franchise, because there are a lot of athletes who either think about investing into a franchise business, investing into other people's businesses. I want to know what brought you to going into the business route, like business ownership, once you left the sport, right? So that's the first part of that. And then, and then what are some lessons that you learned from that period of your life?
What got me there is I kind of always saw myself as a natural leader. So I felt like I could manage people well, and more of like a coach, as an athletic coach, of being like a good recruiter, and also just seeing talent, but also meshing everybody together. So I felt like I could lead, but also I felt like I had the ability to run a business that I could follow kind of a structure. So back to the structure thing. Franchising is good because there's a daily checklist of things you got to do every single day when you get to the store, whatever it is. So I went the sandwich route, and I chose Jimmy John's mainly because, I'll tell you why, because during my minor league career, they were kind of one of the only games in town that could deliver sandwiches, and they would literally deliver to our clubhouse if we were in range. So I was like, this is the best thing ever. I can deliver a sandwich. No one does that at the time. So I had heard they were coming to California and trying to build out their locations out here. And so I was like, let me see what this is all about. So my cousin and I decided, long story short, we did it together. And so we had to get approved and got the location, all that stuff. So you definitely learn a lot about, traffic in the area, and schools and housing and the population around. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And by the way, what I didn't know is the college campus stores do double the revenue what your suburb stores do. So yeah, of course, they're all corporate stores on the college campuses, not franchise owned. But yeah, I learned a ton, just running the whole show, and hiring and firing. You got to get used to that, and just trying to run the business as best you can. Now, I was owner operator, so I'm in there every single day. We open at 11 a.m. I'm in there at 5 a.m. trying to get bread ready, slicing meats, getting veggies ready. It's a whole thing if you're owner operator, not just the silent money behind. So I don't know if you want me to go deeper into that, but.
No, that's good because it raises a lot of concerns. Not necessarily concerns, but it raises a lot of business logistics that I don't believe a lot of business owners or people who think that they're ready for investment,
Yeah.
depending on what the business and the industry may be, and or athletes, like that they're not really ready for what is expected of them and waiting on the other side. Because you kind of have like this idea of the gravy, the cream on the top of what you think it's going to look like until
Yeah.
you're really deep into everything. Like you're having to get up super early, so that part of the structure might be something that you're already used to as a professional athlete because you're getting up early to go work out. But you're having now to manage staff. How do you deal with employment issues?
Yeah. And yeah, the minimum
And
wage
payroll.
rising. Yeah. All kinds of stuff. Right. And so the good thing, like franchising, it has the checklist every day, which you can follow. However, it kind of goes back to they run everything and you can't go outside the box with anything. Right. So if we wanted a social media post, we had to get it approved by corporate. You can't change the menu. You can't change your store hours. You can't change your delivery area. It felt so restrictive that we could only do so much. Plus, I chose a business that is primarily a lunchtime business. So you got to make all your money between 11 and 3. Nobody's coming in for dinner for a sandwich, but we had to still have labor, costs there and food costs and stay open late. And we're trying to fight that, hey, we're not making any money, but the franchise makes all the rules. So it is good to have the structure, but it's also very restrictive because they own the business, they own the product. So there's a lot of give and take there. I try to push people away from franchising, to be honest, unless it's the certain, maybe I just picked the wrong one. There's a few that I would consider now, but what I also learned is you're not just competing against other sandwich places for lunch. You're competing, especially in California, against all lunchtime business. So good luck without hot sandwiches and alcohol to make all your money during those hours. It's just very difficult.
Yeah. And that's just one
Yeah.
form of business that we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Just if anybody, by the way, all your listeners have questions, I have no problem talking to you or reaching out and educating you on franchising because it's not easy and it's hard to make a lot of money off of one location. So you need to have deep pockets to build out more stores, and it's a tough business.
Yes. So that takes me to the legal round. I want to ask you some questions. Since you do have this experience of being in business too, but this could also be some things that come up just from your past as a professional athlete into today, into the present. So for the legal round, are you ready?
I don't know, but maybe.
All right. So, and I don't care what perspective you come from with this. I just really want to get into the minds of people and kind of figure out what their thoughts about the law really is. So you don't have to be an expert to answer these questions.
Okay.
So what is one thing about the law you love?
I don't think I've ever been asked that question before, so I feel honored. Thank you. One thing about the law that I love, that it's I guess there's justice if you have proof for yourself, then you can present your case, you know what I mean? And you can do a deposition and you can, if you feel like you have a legitimate case, you have a chance to win. So I think I guess it's somewhat fair depending on what kind of lawyer you got.
Okay. Now, what are 3 things?
I didn't take the bar exam. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, that's good. What are 3 things you wish you'd known about the law? So think about some of the situations where you've been in. It may not have raised a legal issue, for example, to where you've had to hire counsel, but maybe knowing these things about the law could have helped you. So what are 3 things you wish you'd known about the law?
3 things I wish I would have known. Sometimes I think that even if you present a lot of facts or like just stuff you say sometimes doesn't matter. And like saying, I don't know in like a deposition. And I know this because I went through a workers' comp case. So I did go through some of that. like it's okay to just say I don't know, and you can still you can still win the case. So I think that maybe the verbiage or the way things are done is a little bit weird to me, just because I haven't been in that background. But I don't know. I'm not sure.
This is good because I really want you to think about it. I really want you to think about it. So that's good. Now, here's my last question. What scares you the most about the law?
What scares me the most? Oof. If I were to ever get in trouble and not having any control over the outcome, probably. I don't know. Not that I'm not doing anything shady or anything like that, but a judge that isn't fair to the person that might be in the right. I think it's just there's some bias maybe in there. Who knows? I think sometimes it's not all about the facts. I think that's what would scare me.
Yeah, I guess because it could. I mean, when you're thinking about the law, it's really about creativity in the story that you tell. Yep. So you've been doing a lot of things, which I actually like. You have your podcast. You're on to doing some additional things. So it makes me think about legacy and where you are with creating and building your legacy. Some people don't really think about this as a tangible thing. Like we just kind of go into doing and moving the wheels and doing all the things we feel like we need to do. But have you ever thought about your legacy? And if you have, what is the type of legacy you want to leave?
I think that I pride myself on being prepared. So I think the phrase that always is stuck in my mind, I don't know if it's from my dad or what, but like I used to think it was John Wooden, who I like a lot, the former UCLA legendary coach for basketball, but I think it was somebody else that said it. But failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And I kind of live my life by that. So when I do my interviews, I'm always prepared. I always do my research. I don't want to wing it. I always want to feel like I am very ready for the person that I'm going to interview. And I want them to have a form of respect where they can open up to me because they know I did the work beforehand to get ready and get their story, but also to make them feel comfortable and have a personality that they can relate to as well. So my legacy, I want to be how consistent I am at what I do. I've taken chances on my ability as well. So you kind of have to gamble on yourself sometimes if you believe in what you're doing. And just treating people with respect and being a good human in society and just a good friend and just somebody that you like when you see me, you light up or you are comfortable talking to me about stuff. I want to be a trusted member of, my family and friends and all that stuff and just being there for people. So just being an overall good human being.
I'm glad that you answered that way. One of the things that I have been re-educating business owners and athletes on is legacy is more than just the dollars that we build and accumulate, but it's also how you make other people feel and the impact, the real impact that you leave on this earth, right? People who may have been able to do something that they've always wanted to do only because you were able to touch them in some way, right?
Yeah.
That's like a real legacy. And I mean, of course, we look at legacy for our people, like our family or our kids or spouses, whatever. Like we want to build and leave something for them. But my fear is that we will continue doing all the things and hitting all the bells, but not really thinking about how it all adds up for our legacy.
Yeah, that's why I didn't even put money in there, because to me, that's like a product of what you do. That's really not, like if you make a lot of money, that's not really, you made that money, but what did you do for others along the way? Like you can live a very selfish life, you totally can, but what was your impact? Like, did you just take care of you or did you take care of other people too?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I totally agree. Yep. Because I mean, for me, and not to kind of like get off topic, but I made a post a little while ago talking about I want to be I am a millionaire. I will become a millionaire. And I received a message about that statement, and it didn't offend me, but I was happy that someone took notice and wanted to converse about what that meant and what I was saying. Right. So for me, yeah, I want to become a millionaire. I know I will. And I know that will soon turn into billionaire status. But for me, it's not just the money. It is the vehicle for me to really impact the lives that I want to impact. Right. And sometimes the way that we can do that is through the vehicle of money. But like you said, are you just being selfish and now taking all of that for yourself and you're not doing anything with it? You're not doing anything that you said that you would do? Well, now what legacy are you really, really leaving?
I also, to bring it back to sports a little bit, like there's a whole generation of people, like young people, that I feel like I can help teach the game to almost. And I want to, and it's not their fault. And just people in general, even older people, that if you don't play, like for instance, with baseball, there's so much inside the game that people don't know about. And I feel, not that I'm responsible to tell you, but I feel like I have a lot of knowledge to give. So I want to give that. And so people can watch sports maybe a different way instead of being just a fan where you don't even know what's going on, the game within the game. I want to deliver content that helps people see sports differently.
And how can you do that?
With a podcast.
Right. And then to reach however many other people, what do you need? You need marketing dollars. You need a way to really, reach the masses.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it gets lost on people. But I'm happy that we connected, and I am happy that you are one of the good people out in the sports community who has a real heart of service, like really, really wanting to give back to other people, because it's very important. And we need more people in this space who are not just looking for what I can get out of the situation, but what exactly can I provide to you to help you to become your best self, to do your best work. So I want to close with, what is a fun fact about Brett that people don't even know about?
A fun fact. Let's see. Well, I am 6'7". That's a fun fact. And being tall is good, but it's not always good. I struggle with, buying clothes and fitting into cars and airplanes and, all kinds of stuff. So it's tougher. It's great. Don't get me wrong. But I do get annoyed how often people ask me how tall I am. I will say that. And I'm not even just because then this is what happens. Like, how tall are you? 6'7". Oh, did you play basketball? No. Why not? Well, then it's like, and then here we go. And I don't mind on this because this is a podcast, but like, when I'm at the grocery store, I just want to get my food and go home. Like, I don't know you. I don't want to stop for a half an hour and have you drill me with questions forever. So I guess the fun fact, I get annoyed when people ask me how tall I am.
That is funny. So hold on, wait. So how did you come up with the name for?
Because I kind of embraced. I'm trying to embrace like this. I can't. This is what it is, because it just felt like, and I've had people call me that before. Like, one of my other nicknames in the minors, kind of funny, was The Building. People just called me The Building. So that was. So I'm just kind of embracing it because I don't know. I'm just too tall for things like doorways and just random things. So I'm trying to embrace that.
That is actually pretty funny. No, that's good though. That's really, really good. Well, I'm so glad that you decided to join me for the podcast. And I do want our listeners to connect with you. So if you could, please let everyone know how they can connect with you, stay in contact with your content, and listen to the Too Tall Sports Podcast.
Yeah, anywhere on social media, just at Too Tall Sports Podcast. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. Hit me up on LinkedIn for anybody out there that's even wants to talk about franchising. I could talk to you about that for forever. So hit me up on LinkedIn as well, Brett Lorin. Just look me up. But yeah, and hit me up in the DMs on social media. Any of that stuff. I have a YouTube channel as well, so I drop episodes every Thursday. So Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all the channels, just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast and you'll find my stuff. But yeah, anybody that wants to chat, hit me up. So I'm ready for you.
Sounds good. Guys, that will conclude our interview today with Brett from the Too Tall Sports Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Sivonnia DeBarros, the protector of athletes, and it's always a pleasure to educate you, motivate you, and support you to your very next level. Until next time, I will check you guys later. Ciao.
Joining us this week on What Are You Sporting About podcast. Make sure to visit our website, prosportlawyer.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite platform is, so you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or iHeartRadio. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like the show, you might want to check out our book, What Are You Sporting About? Attorney Sivonnia DeBarros is available for private consulting at sldebarros.com. And remember, we're here to educate, support, and guide you in your journey to success, because we're all sporting about something.